Welcome inside our studios here at Fred TV as we get you ready for the big game on Thanksgiving Day. Evan Massoud with you for this afternoon, and we have Athletic Director Tom Tarpey and Athletic Director Brad Buston from New Bedford and from Durfee. Gentlemen, great to have you in our new space.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
All right, well, let's get started. You know, this is a historic rivalry here, Durfee versus New Bedford, the Hilltoppers and the Whalers, over 100 years old. It's funny, you know, you look on Wikipedia and they're actually listed as the over 100-year rivalries in the country. So this is a big deal. It's been a big deal for a long time. So, you know, let's talk about that. You know, what does it mean to both communities? Tom, we'll start with you.
Like you said, it's a big deal, no matter what the records are, no matter, you know, and mostly this year we're both kind of struggling. But I think everybody's looking forward to it. You still get a lot of calls, you know, are the tickets available, you know, when's the rally, the bonfire, all that stuff that we have. So our community's still looking forward to it.
Yeah, it's always been a big game, and the kids get up for it. Like Tom said, it doesn't matter what the records are. Durfee, New Bedford, the kids are pumped up, they're ready to go, and it's a great rivalry.
So one of the things that we always talk about is how the record really doesn't matter. I know you touched on it, Brad, and you know it doesn't matter if you're coming in with 0 wins or you're gone 10-0. On Thanksgiving, it's like playoffs. It's a clean slate, and everybody wants that win. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, and that's what's great about this rivalry is that you can have a bad season and still with 1 game left, that's what you play for. So it's like a whole new season. And I actually heard my coach talk after the game the other day that, you know, now it's a 1-game season. Let's just focus on getting a win on Thanksgiving Day. So it is something special.
Yeah, it means so much to the kids and to the communities, and it's been that way for, like I said, over 100 years. So it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what kind of season you have. And you know, I think we've seen both ways where New Bedford might have had a winning record and Durfee came in and won, and vice versa. So it's just different. It's just a different feeling on Thanksgiving Day.
I think it's nice to see that, you know, going back to 05, you know, there's been kind of a 50-50 split in a sense. New Bedford's got a little bit of an advantage, but, you know, for a while there in the 90s and whatnot, there's a string of games where New Bedford really had their way, and they do hold the overall winning record in this series. But it's nice to see that over the last few years or so, it's kind of been both sides. So both groups have had a chance to experience that win on Thanksgiving. In terms of logistics, obviously there's a lot of logistics for both of you to contend with when you're hosting Thanksgiving. Brad, this year we have new traffic patterns. We have a new entrance to the stadium, new parking. I have to think there's an added element to it this year.
Yeah, the communication. I'm emailing officials, getting it out on Twitter, getting it out on Facebook, any way we can to let people know the best way to get here, where to park. Yeah, so it's been challenging.
I mean, you both have been athletic directors here now for a number of years. So, you know, again, you've seen, you know, both sides of it. You know, I wonder, sometimes we see that the numbers aren't quite there. And I know that there's hope for feeder programs from the middle schools and whatnot. But, you know, what do you attribute that to? And Tom, we'll start with you.
I think that social media is a big thing. I think a lot of kids are working now and would rather work than take the time and you know, go to practice 5-6 days a week. And they want to work for their phone, they want to work for their car. So I just don't think it's a priority now like it used to be. But you know, luckily we still have a group of, you know, 25, 30 kids that it means a lot to them, and they're pushing, and we try to get them in school, spreading the word, and you know, try to highlight the accomplishments that they have. So it's a tough battle, but we're still fighting it, and we're just hoping that our numbers increase. Our numbers are pretty good right now, so we're happy where we are, but we can always get more kids to play.
Okay.
Yeah, same with us. We had a couple of years where the numbers were kind of low, and we couldn't sustain 3 programs. We had a couple of games for freshmen, and then we didn't have enough. In the years past, kids the numbers at the beginning of the season were pretty high, and then as the season went on, the commitment level or whatever it was, and kids getting jobs, they would quit in the you know, middle of the season. So then we would have to cancel the JV game or cancel a freshman game. But this year has been great. This year the numbers, we've sustained the numbers. The varsity numbers are good. We had a full JV program and we had a full freshman program. So that's encouraging. And hopefully the numbers continue to go up.
Sure. Now, obviously, last year was so strange in many ways. It was not a, quote, normal year. And a lot of people I've talked to have said it was kind of a lost year. Now, I feel kind of both ways about that. I get that, you couldn't play according to the rules in a lot of sense. There were changes to the rules. The schedule was modified. It was shortened. But at the same time, I commend both of you because both the Whalers and the Hilltoppers had the opportunity to play from September to June. Not a lot of schools can say that. So now we look at this year and you're back to normal. Do you think that having some normalcy has, contributed to the numbers increasing or getting back to a certain level this year?
I think so. I think that, I think also for football, without the mass outdoors, and the other fall sports without the mass outdoors, I think that's helped a lot. That probably attributed to a lot of kids playing that probably wouldn't have if they had to wear the mask. So I think across the board, for the most part, in New Bedford, our numbers have been pretty good for the fall. A couple sports we still kind of struggle a little bit, and I think after the last year's season, for us to be where we are right now is encouraging.
Yeah, the numbers were good for us, and I think the kids just wanted to get back, and they wanted to get back doing something. So that was encouraging to see. I think we lost a few kids. I heard of a couple kids that played in the past, but when you ask them how come you didn't play, oh, I ended up getting a job, I ended up working, so they didn't come back out. That was only a few. For the most part, our numbers in the fall were very good, so that was encouraging.
How important do you feel that peer-to-peer interaction, particularly last year, being able to sustain athletics last year? How invaluable was that? Because obviously, we've seen coming into this year full in-person learning again that there's been some challenges with that. But I think having that time with their peers last year helped really kind of bridge that gap in some sense from pre-COVID to now. Brad, we'll start with you.
Well, Tom and I both have kids that went through the system, and his son is a senior right now. Yeah. And my son and daughter both graduated from Durfee. My daughter graduated last year, and she was an athlete, and you could see, she was worried about not having a prom, worried about not, homecoming, and so they care about that stuff, and they want that peer-to-peer interaction. And last year we were able to do a lot of things, but the year before that, her junior year, she missed out on a lot, and she was really bummed out about it. And I'm sure that's a way a lot of the kids felt in the school. So it's to get them to come back and get them in person and social emotionally, I think it's huge.
Yeah, this past August was great to see when they all showed up, and they were all together again. It was really good without the restrictions, without most of the restrictions. It was really nice to walk around and see them at practice all together without their masks on, having fun and getting back to competing.
Looking back at the rivalry, it's been almost a decade now since I started covering these games, and I'm not going to lie, there were times where I felt like the rivalry maybe cooled off a little bit. But last year kind of ended on a contentious note. There was a 5-minute runoff. That was it for the fourth quarter. Do you ever worry about those incidents carrying over? We're talking 6 months. It wasn't really last year. It was last season. But in a normal situation, even a year later, do you both have that in the back of your mind when you're hosting?
Well, every game. It doesn't matter if it's football, basketball. It's an emotional game, and our kids are very emotional. They want to win, and it's something that you have to be aware of. I think what happened last year is over. I think that was an isolated incident, and again, it was a very emotional game, and we dealt with it after, and I think we'll be fine.
Yeah, I think that we handled it well. After the game, a couple days after, our head coaches spoke. They're both assistant principals in the respective buildings, so they know, what has to be done to make it just a competitive game on the field. So I don't see anything spilling over to this year.
Do you feel that there's an added advantage having coaches that have played for each system and know the rivalry?
Yeah, Taylor's been doing this for a long time. He was on the, I think it was 2001 Super Bowl team, and he's been around it. He knows it, and he can talk to the kids all about it. So yeah, I think it matters. I think it's huge.
Yeah, and mostly all my staff except for one played there or coached there, because we have a lot of the guys that coached back in the 90s that are back to coach. So they all have been a part of this rivalry for a long time. So they know how important it is, and they always spread the word to the kids. So it's a pretty big deal, and our kids are really fired up.
Well, let's final thoughts as we head into this next meeting here. We're about a week or so away. It's such a big game. We've had great turnout, I know, here fan-wise. I hope it's been the same in New Bedford, Tom. But some of our football games this year, Brad, I would argue have been as good attendance as I've ever seen. So I'm sure the fans are going to make their presence known. But, you know, from a football team standpoint, you know, Durfee's competed very well this year. The record doesn't show it. And that tends to be the case a lot of times. I thought last Friday's game was one of the best all-around games we've seen in a few years, and lost by a point. But, you know, coming into Thanksgiving, what are you expecting from the Hilltoppers?
It's been a kind of like a tale of two seasons. The first 4 games, we were very, very competitive, and close games and tough losses in the first 4. And then we had some injuries. Right after the Barnstable game, we had some injuries. And the games after that, we struggled. But the last 2 weeks, we've been got some kids back healthy. And we've been very competitive the last 2 weeks. And like you said, last Friday night's game with Needham was one of the best high school football games I've seen. Even though we came out on the wrong end, it was a great game, and our kids battled right to the end. So I think we're healthy. I think we're going to bring that energy. There'll be even more energy on Thanksgiving Day. So I think it's going to be. I think we're going to show up, and I think we're going to be ready.
Tom, your Whalers a couple years ago went through the same transition that Durfee's going to be going through now. Is that core group of seniors that have been playing together for years? They're going to be moving on after this game, after this school year. But you folks experienced that 2 years ago. Now you're coming in with, you know, a fairly new squad in a sense. Talk to me about your Whalers and, you know, the viewers at home in terms of, you know, what they can expect when they see New Bedford come to Durfee for the first time in 2 years.
Yeah, I think that, you know, we haven't had many competitive games. We did struggle. We were shut down for 2 weeks early in the season because of COVID, and I don't think we've really recovered. We've had some injuries, some kids out for COVID, so I think hopefully this game will be at full strength for the first time all season. We did win last week, 7-3. So we're riding a positive, and I know we're just going to pull out all the stops and try to get the win, because it's important for the kids. It's important for our program. I think we're in a tough spot right now, football-wise, and I think that you know, a win over Durfee on Thanksgiving Day can definitely propel us in the right direction.
Well, that's a good word. We thank you for tuning in as we get you ready for Thanksgiving Day football. I'm excited. It'll be nice to play on Thanksgiving, especially after playing in April, although I will say the weather was great back in April.
Yeah.
That was a treat, let me tell you. But it should be a good one. Our live coverage on Thanksgiving morning will begin at 10 a.m. from Mac Aldridge Field live on Fred TV. We'll also be live streaming as well on our Fred TV Sports Facebook page. Joe Cabral and Chris Santos will be joining me from New Bedford Cable as we team up once again for the broadcast. Gentlemen, thank you for being here.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, that's going to do it here from Fred TV. Stay tuned for Thanksgiving Day football just about a week from now. Evan Massoud saying so long.